I'm sure we all have similar stories when it comes to being brought to the mall to meet Santa for the first time. You were either a really chill child who loved the experience and came home with a new appreciation for the holiday, or you were like me and was absolutely terrified of the guy at first. But as always, over time, the fear went away and the visits to Santa at the mall became way more exciting and less horrifying. However, there is another night I remember where the idea of Santa wasn't so soothing. I was laying in bed the night of Christmas Eve, eagerly awaiting the next morning, while also trying to get some sleep, when all of a sudden I hear my bedroom door slowly creak open. I was way too terrified to open my eyes and look, as I was sure Santa was in my room checking to see if I was truly sleeping, testing me if you will. Sure enough, the door shut, and I was laying there in fear that I was being watched by this large stranger in my house. As time went on and I learned some sad truths, it obviously became clear that it was actually one of my parents, checking to see if they were in the clear to start laying gifts out. But nonetheless, that moment haunted me as a child. But this whole story just goes to show that in some cases, Santa isn't so jolly. As a matter of fact, he can be quite intimidating, which I believe fits in perfectly with what we have in store today: Christmas analog horrors. Now, there aren't a lot of these, but they exist. I figured this would be the best time to celebrate the Christmas season, with a little bit of Christmas horror. I'll preface now by saying most of what we're going to cover today will likely be a little silly. I mean, come on, it's Santa in an analog horror. So we're just here today to have a good time and check out some fun little holiday horrors. I got a handful of interesting looking contenders that I hope you'll join me on discovering. As always, be sure to check out the original videos to support the creators before diving in over here for us to brave the winter together. But without further ado, it's time to get into the Christmas season with some scares. But before I let you get too far, just wanted to say if you're new here and enjoy what you're watching, be sure to hit all those neat buttons down below as it really helps support the channel. And if you want to see more, be sure to follow us on Instagram and Letterboxd. Alright, now you can pass through. Emergency Alert System Scenario: Santa. Our story takes us to Japan, as we open up with a TV programming schedule which includes weather news followed by our favorite Christmas hit songs. At around midnight to 2 in the morning, however, is a special Santa Hunter program. Can't wait for that. A message then appears on the screen wishing us all a Merry Christmas and asking what we wished for this year. We're then told that it's time to crash out to bed before Santa arrives. But before we get to our next segment, we are flashed quite the interesting photo of our supposed holiday character. That was certainly a different design for Santa than I'm used to. It might be because he has an endless void where his face should be. Our next segment, as we saw on the schedule, was our weather forecast, and it looks like most of the area is going to be hit with unprecedented blizzards, which is leading to a ton of train trips and flights being delayed. We're told to stay indoors unless it's absolutely necessary. Before we can learn any more about this storm, our broadcast is interrupted following a report of an unidentified airborne object coming from Siberia, Russia. I have a feeling I know exactly what that is. The message repeats again, and we are then shown a map that shows over half of Japan is in the alert area. An emergency alert comes up to tell us the same message, and we're told to remain home until further notice. It isn't clear yet if Russia is the origin for this mysterious object, but a task force in Tokyo is currently investigating the situation. Since it is Christmas Eve, however, the report tells us that if we have children, we should try and keep things as normal as possible, make sure they get to bed, and wake up to a nice Christmas. Our next segment, however, has us following a drone from the task force, off to find out what exactly is in the sky. The way this works is if a target is detected, an image will be captured and transmitted. Text communications are also available. It takes a minute for any image to arrive, but once the report notification pops up, it ends up being exactly what we all expected. Sure enough, it's Santa on his sleigh. I wonder what would actually happen if we found this in real life. As a matter of fact, he'd likely just get shot down. No care for the Christmas spirit. But that's not the only image we get, as the next one quickly rolls in. It almost looks like Santa is now right at the drone, and once again his face doesn't seem to even be there, just a void and a singular eyeball. As it turns out, Santa actually managed to hijack the messaging system, and left behind a sinister message. Oh no, I've caught you peeking. Good children should be in bed. You've been bad. Look up. The picture then reappears, and we can hear what sounds like bells from above. Our drone has likely been taken care of. We then get a news update that the special program Santa Hunter has been canceled due to the weather. Yeah, I'm sure there's definitely not another reason. Another emergency alert ends up coming on screen. This time, however, it's nationwide. All of Japan is under alert. We are told we need to take measures for immediate safety. We aren't too sure what's going on, but this situation is life-threatening. We are instructed to take shelter in bed if we hear bells either indoors or outdoors, to stay quiet, and don't go outside. It's imperative that you run at the sound of those bells. It seems like they believe if we go to sleep, we will all be fine. Our last segment in this tape has us following a child on the night of Christmas Eve, woken up by their door being opened. This is sounding all too familiar. But once the bedroom door gets closed, those bells can be heard. We then are brought to Christmas morning, where a certain gift out of the tree is left with a note that reads, "To Mom and Dad, I'm sorry I've been bad." Don't tell me this is going where I think it's going. Sure enough, we see a news report that says these gift wrap boxes contain the dismembered bodies of quote-unquote naughty kids. To make matters worse, the little note is written in the victim's handwriting, and that's where this tape ends. That was shockingly really good, especially with that ending. It was interesting seeing Santa from this perspective. It would honestly be quite harrowing if out of nowhere you just found out he was real. I like how at the beginning we don't know what Santa's intentions truly are. We'd like to hope that he is going to just do what Santa normally does. Be jolly, give gifts, and just overall be a great guy.
God, good guy, man.
But as the tape goes on, you start to question if there is something else sinister at play here, especially with one look at his void face. But unfortunately, in this world, Santa is a true villain, dismembering naughty children and likely adults and then giving the bodies as gifts to their loved ones, pinning the blame on their deaths on themselves for being bad. Truly horrific and tragic if you ask me. I imagine most of these analog horrors are going to go the route of an evil Santa, and if you ask me, maybe I was onto something when I was little and terrified of him. Maybe I knew something no one else did. A Christmas Tale. Our holiday tale opens up looking like an old animation cartoon special, with our narrator setting up our scene. We're introduced to our main character named Mikey the Mouse. Not Mickey, Mikey. And he lives really far from the rest of civilization. Mikey heads out into the forest to find something to eat. He's pretty hungry, but things should run smoothly, as long as he makes it back home before it gets too cold for even Mikey. Unfortunately, the sun has started to set, and Mikey hasn't found any food yet. Since the fog is way too thick and heavy for Mikey, he set up a little camp with fire and a shelter, in hopes to make it through the cold night. Mikey isn't able to get much sleep sadly, since he's not only cold, but also hungry. He tries to shut his eyes to get sleep, but something can be heard from outside. He opens his eyes back up and peeks out of his shelter, and we see something in the distance that doesn't look too friendly. But straight ahead of us is a rabbit. Could this be a potential meal? Mikey looks back over and the creature is now gone, but not for long. This evil bastard is eating the only thing Mikey had available at the moment. Now it seems like the short would end there, but this one ends up taking a really bizarre turn at the last minute. We end up seeing as someone else is watching this short on their TV, just chilling out and smoking. But when we cut to this character's face, they look almost pissed off, like something about this cartoon really struck a nerve. What connection does this dude have to the rest of the cartoon? I mean, I guess it wasn't a very friendly cartoon. The poor rabbit did get mauled by this weird looking creature. I'm actually shocked this didn't have any Santa in it, just a horrific animal that lurks in the snowy forest. I hope it doesn't go after Mikey next. Once again, this was definitely a solid Christmas short, especially when you see all the hard work that had to have gone into the animation and designs. It's always really cool to see people be able to show off their abilities in this way, all the more inspiring for people out there who want to make stuff of their own. Santa Claus is coming to town. Now you may actually recognize the creator for this entry, Mythical Films, the same creator who brought us Stone Cold and Stone Cold Zero. Given those names, it was only a matter of time before a Christmas property was discovered. Our entry opens up with a segment from 1947's Santa's Surprise. He certainly has been surprising us lately. We see as Santa flies across the sky, giving gifts to kids. You know, like Santa is supposed to. But we end up cutting out to a live broadcast from the North Pole. We are told to not stay up too late and to head to bed soon. We get a little bit more from Santa's surprise where we see these kids sneaking in somewhere, likely where Santa is trying to sleep. Bad move, kids. The broadcast comes back to remind us to set out the milk and cookies, as Santa is right over our town. The next segment takes us to Channel 5 News, and we hear about a very violent incident. There have been over 10 murder reports in the last couple hours, all with unknown causes. That's a lot of murders in a short amount of time. We are told to keep ourselves locked in our homes for the time being, and are then shown what is said to be the 173rd reported homicide, but we don't know in what time frame. Is that 173 homicides in a night? A week? An hour? Who knows, but that's a heaping amount of murders. The broadcast comes up and we are given another message just telling us to head to bed. Santa is creeping on our street. Before we cut back to Santa's surprise to see him flying over the city, but with a more sinister outlook. We get yet another message. He is here. Why are you watching? We then view from what looks like home security footage. Text then appears that says, "You're on the naughty list, aren't you?" A child then comes out from their room and begins to head downstairs. They likely heard Santa arrive. They keep searching the living room before they ultimately come across the man himself. He's a little hard to see in the dark, but he's certainly there. We quickly return to Santa being an enemy in this universe. It sounds pretty consistent that if you are on the naughty list, it isn't Krampus that kills you. Santa does it all on his own. That makes Santa as a concept 100 times more terrifying than he should be. It was scary enough believing I may have been naughty as a child. Add in the fact that it will result in my death and it's game over. It also definitely sounds like those 173 homicides were all people on the naughty list that have been killed by Santa, and I'm sure that number is quickly going to skyrocket throughout this night. Christmas Guide. Our story opens up on Channel 4, where, just like the title suggests, a Christmas guide appears to be playing, to get us all ready for Santa Claus. We are shown a normal silhouette of Santa and one of his reindeer, and are told to remember his appearance. The way they look then quickly shifts, with the reindeer having multiple eyes around it, and Santa wielding an axe. We are then told that if we see this variation of Santa, that we have to stay as far away as possible. If we so happen to hear bells or the reindeer outside in the middle of the night, we should not go and investigate, as it's said to be very disrespectful to Santa. As expected, we also have to keep an eye out for our chimney. We don't want any evil Santas coming down through there. We are then told to keep an eye on our children, and are shown the missing Christmas child case. Once again, Santa is depicted as having almost no face, just eyes. Apparently, this is not the first time a child has gone missing. We learn that in 1992 on Christmas Eve, several children disappeared from a Christmas party in Tennessee. It was suspected to be multiple criminals in a Santa disguise. And while this second paragraph is being covered, I think I know what may have happened. Many local people reported that they have received gift boxes. The rest can't be read except for clothing fabric at the bottom. I have a feeling that Santa may have done what the first one did, killed the kids and sent them back home in a gift-wrapped box. Maybe it wasn't their dismembered bodies this time, but perhaps personal belongings. We then flip to a photo of Santa standing next to his reindeer. He has a face this time, but they still both don't look right. It still kind of looks like the reindeer has multiple eyes. We then see as someone lays in their bed, while Santa slowly begins to approach. We're quickly flashed two very blurry photos of what looks to be Santa faceless, and one where it looks like a regular bearded fellow. Perhaps this is still Santa, but in a different form. The last thing we see on this tape is the same image we saw at the beginning, except this time, Santa's whole head has been replaced with a giant eye. Similarly to the emergency alert system on Santa we covered first, this seems to go the route of utilizing Santa's all-seeing ability, making him this weird creature with multiple eyes that can see everything, even if we are being naughty or nice. Perhaps that is the meaning behind his faceless appearance, just a black void where only his eyes can be seen. It turns Santa from a human with magical abilities to a straight-up demonic entity. As a matter of fact, Santa's name can be very easily arranged to Satan. I think that makes this a closed case. I don't know about any of you, but I'm going to be doing my best to be the most upstanding citizen from here on out. A Terrifying Christmas. Our last tape begins, and we are brought to Christmas Day of 1999. We learn about a 9-year-old named Justin who recently disappeared, and the missing case has been spreading around town like a wildfire. It said Justin was considered missing the day before Christmas, and the locals have started to create rumors surrounding the case, with some believing he is dead, and some still holding out hope. But as it turns out, Justin is not the only child to have a Christmas-related disappearance. Since 1989, there have been multiple children that have gone missing on Christmas. This is leading people to suspect this is the work of a man dressed up as Santa. This theory is then further heightened when the police found a photo of Justin and the supposed Santa suspect. The photo is then shown to us, and I'm going to be honest with you folks, it's a jump scare.
Here's the picture.
Taking just one look at this photo, I can tell you that is not Santa, and I can't blame Justin in the slightest for having the reaction he's having. This Santa appears to have an all-white face this time with a huge frightening smile. Text quickly appears on screen just saying Santa Claus is not real. Santa Claus killed the child. The man wasn't really Santa Claus. The phrase, "they're all dead," then repeats as the same photo comes closer and closer.
Santa Claus, they're all dead, they're all dead, they're all dead, they're all dead, they're all.
And the last thing we see on this tape is a distorted view of the photo, with Christmas music eerily playing in the background. This story seems to be suggesting that this was more of a man-made crime, just some psycho that dressed up as Santa. And for those of us who have seen Terrifier 3, you know a creepy-ass Santa isn't going to stop kids from approaching. So far, just about everything we covered today included an evil Santa, all about the story following Mikey. I like that each Santa is depicted quite similarly throughout all of them. He kills the naughty kids, he even kills you if you see him. The emergency alert scenario gave us a view from a world where the public finds out Santa is actually real through drone footage. However, he doesn't take too kindly to being found out about. He also literally sent the naughty kids' corpses back home as gifts. He was truly a despicable variation. Perhaps the worst of them all, if I'm being honest. In Santa Claus is Coming to Town, we got to see just how brutal it can get if Santa is out for naughty blood, with the multiple homicide reports and the North Pole broadcast eerily letting us know how Santa is from us. I have a feeling that the broadcast was truly live from the North Pole. Perhaps Santa's way of communicating to people that if they don't get their ass in bed, they may just wind up dead. The Christmas guide almost seemed like the world knew of Santa's existence, but also knew the necessary precautions to keep themselves safe, like knowing it's disrespectful to Santa to try and catch him. That depiction of Santa also had him with the all-seeing eye for a head, adding in this weird, almost biblical design to the character. Then, in A Terrifying Christmas, it likely wasn't even Santa at all, but just a crazed lunatic going out kidnapping kids utilizing his image. Each one also had the similarity of needing to be asleep when Santa arrives. When it comes to that story I told at the beginning, I definitely made the right call. If I had to pick favorites, however, they would probably be the emergency alert scenario and A Christmas Tale. The alert scenario really went all out with the mean and dark horrors with this twisted setting. I don't know, the whole gift wrapping bodies really stuck with me. Then A Christmas Tale really shined through by being the only one to not be about Santa, but about a creepy forest monster antagonizing poor Mikey. Plus the animation was really well done. I hope you all enjoyed these mini Christmas analog horrors as much as I did. They definitely aren't meant to be taken too seriously. It's all in good fun taking what is supposed to be a joyous holiday and adding a horrifying twist that turns the whole thing into a nightmare. If you haven't already, I can highly recommend you check out these Christmas horrors and check out all the other works as well. However, if you made it all the way to the end of this Christmas special, I thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a good Christmas or just a good holiday season in general. Since this week will be Christmas, there unfortunately won't be a video coming up on the 29th, but schedules will return to normal come the next year. So as always, keep leaving me recommendations down below, whether it be in the YouTube comments or community Discord where, just like Santa, I'm always around. But on that note, have a wonderful happy holidays, and make sure you're asleep when Santa comes hunting.